A lot of people ask me what I'm investing my money into currently and how my investment portfolio has been performing in a year like 2022 when broadly the index and stock market are down quite significantly. So I did a video at the start of the year where I talked about the top 5 investments within my active investment portfolio, including the stocks that I had bought in. But I've made a significant number of changes since I made that video. So if you're interested in understanding what I bought and what I sold and how much my realized profits were, then keep watching. Hello and welcome to The Nimble Nomad. My name is Arjun and this is the channel where I talk about money and investing. In case you're new to investing and you want to learn about investing, then please consider subscribing to the channel because I talk a lot about money and investing on this channel. So I did a video at the start of the year where I talked about the top 5 investments within my investment portfolio. And in case you haven't watched that video, I'll add a link of it there. But just to quickly recap, the top 5 investments that I made in equities within my investment portfolio included BP, ExxonMobil, Alibaba, Intel, and British Tobacco. Now, since I made that video, I've actually sold off 2 of those positions. They're quite easy to guess given what's happening in the stock market. But in this video, what we're going to quickly do is we're going to talk about what I've sold, what I'm currently buying, and in the process, how much are my realized gains as well. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is obviously the stocks that I have sold. And the 2 stocks that I did sell are BP and Exxon. And the primary reason for that is back about 8 or 9 months ago, I'd made a video, which I'll add a link of there as well, where I projected that oil prices were going to hit $100 per barrel. They're currently trading at $120 plus dollars per barrel. And my view is that this is quite an unsustainable price for oil. It's amazing for oil and gas companies because they're absolutely minting money at the moment. But in theory, everything else becomes really, really expensive. And this can have a downward and negative pressure on the broader economics of any sort of global GDP or country. So what I'm projecting is there's going to likely be a recession. And if that recession does happen, oil prices will come down with everything else. So basically what I did was I sold BP and Exxon. So I sold BP at a realized gain of 55%. And my Exxon position, I sold at a realized gain of 100%. Now, I just want to clarify, I'm not bragging here. This is just me giving you an update on my stock and investment portfolio. The other stock that I actually sold, which is a very, very small position in my investment portfolio, was Wise. I had a very small position in Wise, which was a speculative investment that I'd made. The reason for me selling that was I was listening to a couple of the earnings calls and I was actually not very impressed with what the CFO had said in terms of how they were planning to grow their company in light of all the inflationary effects. And they didn't really have a clear strategy of how they were going to continue to grow while reducing their fee margins as well. So for me personally, that was a bit of a red flag, and the stock is actually down 60%. Keep in mind, it was a really small position, so I'm okay to take the hit on that. But I've lost about 60% of my investment portfolio. But whatever's left, I would rather invest it in something better that can make up that loss anyway. So those were my sales for 2022. But now let's just turn around to the investments that I've actually been making in 2022. So obviously there's been a lot of volatility in the stock market in 2022. And as a result of which, I have absolutely gone on a bit of a buying spree. Now, the main 2 sectors that I'm actually focusing on when it comes to my buys is basically technology, because it's absolutely taken a beating. And then the second one is finance. So finance is an area that I've typically been a bit underweight on my investment portfolio. And so I wanted to get greater exposure to finance as well. So I can't go into the specifics of why I'm buying each one of the stocks in this video because it'll become a really, really long video. But what I can do is I'm going to quickly talk about the stocks that I have bought and give you a quick one-liner on why I'm buying those stocks. So if you find any of those stocks interesting and you want me to do a deep dive, comment in the section below and I'll try and do a deep dive review on those stocks as well. So the first stock that I want to talk about that I bought since 2022 began was Barclays. So Barclays is a global bank and it's one of the largest banks here in the UK and one of the oldest as well. And the primary reason I bought Barclays was because when the war began in Russia and Ukraine, all the equities got beaten up massively. But Barclays was significantly impacted, even though it does not have any significant exposure to the Russian market. Moreover, they had a bit of a write down on losses because of their investment banking arm. But the flip side to it was, I know that this is a very well capitalized and liquidated bank. And also, I was locking in a 4+% dividend yield on cost. So, from a value investment perspective, I know that there was going to be some capital appreciation. And whilst I was waiting, I'm going to collect a 4% dividend yield anyway. So the second stock that I started buying once this whole chaos in 2022 happened was Meta. Obviously, the stock has been absolutely beaten up. There's a lot of negative sentiment and news around Meta's growth numbers. But the truth and reality is that Meta is still today a highly cash generative business and they basically earn a shit ton of money anyway. And to add to all of that, they are trading at a very reasonable valuation. So they were trading at a valuation of 14 on PE. And they are a dominant player in the social media and social marketing space anyway. So I honestly think that these guys are going to continue to generate cash for the years to come as well. So that was one of my main reasons to buy Meta as well. Now, the third stock that I bought was M&G. So if you're not familiar with M&G is a global asset manager, but that's based out of the UK. They have an insurance business as well as a asset management business. But the flip side to that is, again, this stock got beaten up massively when the war started. It had nothing to do with them. And I bought them from a value proposition perspective. So one, I locked in a near 10% dividend yield on cost. And two, since I bought them, the capital has appreciated about nearly 25%. So I definitely think I did the right thing here. So whilst I'm waiting for this to appreciate even more, there might be a case that they might get bought out. I'm basically collecting that 10% dividend yield anyway. Now, the fourth stock that I bought is PayPal. So PayPal has absolutely been beaten up on the NASDAQ 100. It is the second worst performing asset or stock. It's down nearly 75% from its 52-week high. And again, in a high interest environment, a growth stock like PayPal will typically do badly anyway. But if I look at all their presentation and growth expectation numbers, they're projecting a 13 to 15% growth outlook anyway. So for me, that beats the index anyway, and I think that's a pretty good buy. And it's a sweet spot between finance and tech, and I use PayPal on a pretty frequent basis. So I decided to buy them anyway because the valuation was really, really in my buy range as well. Now, the next one that I bought was Money Supermarket. So if you don't know what Money Supermarket is, it is a price comparison website for different things like insurances, credit cards, all kinds of random things that you would want to buy. So even energy bills and telephones and mobiles. So for me, this was locking in a 6.5% dividend yield on cost. Really, really well capitalized business. They can easily afford that dividend as well. And so I was a bit more exposure into a dividend paying stock. So I just bought that as well. And then finally, the last stock that I have been buying is Rowe Price. So Rowe Price is a world-renowned asset and fund manager. Their stock has absolutely been beaten up. I think it's down 56% since its 52-week high. The reason for them getting affected so negatively is obviously they're an asset manager. So when the stock market performs badly, investors pull out money. So therefore, the amount of fees that they earn, which is typically a percentage of the investments that their investors are making, obviously drops. So therefore their stock gets affected negatively. But at the same time, if you flip that around into a bull market, which we will return to at some point, this stock will return to its all-time highs as well. So whilst I'm waiting for Rowe Price to appreciate, I've also got a 3.5% dividend yield on cost. So I'm holding that stock as well. So those were the investments that I've made so far in 2022. Sorry, it's a bit of a quick video rundown into all the stocks that I've been buying. I hope this video helped you out, and if it did, please smash that like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.